Good morning. My name is Oliver Weah, and I am a 26-year veteran in the middle school classroom.
Hi, I'm Seth Verba. I've been working here for 21 years in the middle school.
And you are listening to episode 8 of Middle School Madness, a podcast about teaching and things that are interesting to teachers. Hey, today on the show, we want to talk about cell phones. How have cell phones evolved in the classroom over the decades? Are there even any benefits to having cell phones in the classroom? And if Seth and I ran the world, what would our cell phone policy be? And I would like to bring this up. We would like to do a one-page rubric challenge, should you stumble upon this. Remember, back in episode 5, I talked about rubrics. Are you struggling with a rubric? Are you struggling with creating a rubric for your class? Maybe you have a simply awesome rubric that you would just like to share. So send us your rubric in for review or simply for praise, right? We would love to look at it and offer you any help on how to make it better, or just tell you that, yes, you are awesome and on your path to greatness with this project. You can send that to wieheog@gmail.com, and we will be glad to see your submissions. Seth, how have cell phones evolved in the classroom? I mean, you and I, once again, you add up our years teaching. How have they evolved?
Yeah, you know what? I feel like one of those old guys talking about it, but I was there at the start of it, right? I had the opportunity to see the first time that our school district allowed a cell phone to enter the building. I remember those days. I don't specifically recall the year, but I do remember, I remember my first cell phone. I was in college. My brother and I went to the same college, and we had to share one, which is a funny thing to think about. We had one between the two of us. It was one of those flip phones that came out. But in the classroom as an adult, teachers had cell phones in their pockets sometimes, flip phones. No students had them at all. And, and here we are today in our school where we're actually using them for projects, So I think like from the start to the finish, it's quite an evolution, using them pretty much daily now.
Yeah. We do use them daily. I was thinking, I went all the way back. My oldest son is now 24. And I remember getting my first cell phone before he was born, or in between him and child number 2. Like I said, it was 4 inches. It was Nokia. It had like the black screen. You could play Snake on it. And that was like a big deal, right? Even when I went there, they asked me, "Oh, Mr. Weir, what number would you like?" Because you could pick your last 4 digits. And then you go from the 4-inch thing, 23 years later, we now have, look at this. We got multiple colors. It comes with a camera. Constant distractions are inside the phone. It is amazing. Like, I couldn't even take a photo on that Nokia, right?
Right. They didn't have cameras attached to him at that point.
And I'll be the first to say, I remember having this thought, like, what idiot wants to put a camera on a phone? Like, inside my head, it was such like, I'm never going to take, like, I put film in a camera. Why would I want to put film in a phone? Oh, well, they're digitizing things now. Now it's like you can't separate the two. And so then you go forward a couple more years. I remember like those soccer bus rides. First, it was like 1 year, two kids had them.
Right.
And then the next year, 3 kids had them. And then 4, and it went by to it finally got to the point on the bus where you're like 20 minutes out from coming home. You're like, everyone just get on your phone, text your parents, here's when we're going to be. Or as soon as you got on the bus.
Yeah.
It was the old coach's trick. If you were going to show up at 6 o'clock, everybody, text your parents. You're going to be there at 5:45.
5:45. Absolutely. I remember, because of coaching as well, I remember the kids, they had a designated boombox that they would bring with them. That'd be ridiculous nowadays, right?
Yeah.
To show up with a boombox on your shoulder for the games because they wanted their pregame music. Now you have kids that have these portable speakers that Bluetooth to it, obviously.
Right.
And, then now they're arguing over who's gonna attach their phone to that speaker so that, they get to choose the music that day. Completely different discussion going on on those buses.
And even like the bus rides, like the first 10 years of coaching, the bus rides were loud, rowdy. Hey, sit down. Why are you guys moving around? You can't do that. And then I remember it got to a point where you would look back there. They've got their earbuds in.
Yep.
It's quiet. And to my complete surprise, you'd get up, you'd hand out a snack. You'd be like, hey, what are you guys doing? Like, oh, Seth and I are playing a game together. Like, what do you mean?
From the front of the bus to the back.
Really? You guys are like, you don't want to like sit next to it? No. I got my own seat. Or like, I'm sitting there texting my friend who's, two rows back. It's crazy.
It is quite an evolution. I know in the classroom, when I think about like actually when I saw them being used in the classroom, thinking about cell phone use, we had a policy here, at our school where parents had to approve students bringing in, they called it BYOT.
Bring your own tech.
Yeah, bring your own technology. They could sign up their tablets, their laptops, or they could sign up their cell phones on there. And by signing up, their parent basically gave them permission to use their device at school. And this is the best we could do because the districts didn't set aside money to afford to like purchase laptops for every student in the school. So allowing a student to bring their BYOT, was actually cutting edge. I remember at one point. Then we went no cell phones. Do you remember that? Like where they weren't allowed. We didn't want them. And we only wanted them using our devices.
Right. Because that's when I remember those fond memories. Because before there was like, you'd had to sign out the VCR, right? Like there was a VCR on a cart with like a 25-inch TV. Then we got those carts that had just like rows of, oh my God, I'm thinking it wasn't an iPhone, an iPod. An iPod.
Yeah.
They had the iPods and you could like do a QR code and like scan stuff. And then there was the cart for the iPads. And the iPads
were nice.
They were locked down into some ultra like 5-layer device to like keep it safe. And I'm like, holy cow, this is classic.
It was like a mobile way of having a computer lab, the computer lab that you went to as a kid. I remember going as a kid, like computer lab day was super exciting. It didn't matter if you were in history class or science class, like you knew your teacher was taking you to the computer lab that day. Well, like the computer lab day doesn't even exist. We don't even have a computer lab.
We don't have a computer lab anymore.
Yeah. Everybody's got their own devices. Matter of fact, they have, they have their own cell phone that they have internet access to. Then they have devices that our school district provides for them as well with their laptops. So yeah, complete turnaround from, the original technology that you did when you were a kid. Very different.
It is very different how it went from, like you said, the BYOT, bring your own tech, to like a computer lab where you would go and walk in. Now you can't find a computer lab. The district has now evolved to giving every kid a laptop. And what's funny is in that evolution, the phones in their pocket, as you and I said many times before, phones in their pocket are actually better computers than the school provided laptops. And it's still impressive that we provide them with a laptop.
It's incredible. I know you and I've experienced this. We've talked about this many times, but they have a 4K camera in their pocket. And matter of fact, like my cell phone, has multiple camera functions. It's hard to compete with that. I think that one day I was looking into it. How much does it cost to purchase a camera? I was watching a YouTube video about it, and they were talking about how much it costs to buy a camera that can actually outrun your cell phone. And it's a couple $1,000s. Yeah. It's a topic for a different day, but for you as a consumer to go out and actually purchase a camera that can outrun the one that's in your pocket on your cell phone, it's thousands of dollars. So it's just easier to allow the students to use those cell phones.
It is crazy because now we're at the point, I think both you and I surveyed our classes in the fall, where if I've got 24 kids in a class, 22 of them have cell phones.
Yep.
And
by the end of the year, it's typically 24.
Right. Because we're in that middle school range, which tends to be that line of demarcation that says, all right, well, once you're in middle school, you can be responsible for a phone, which is kind of a funny thing to say when you see how they treat their phones. But now it's like every kid has one. They've evolved into an extension of their own hands. Like they've got them all the time now.
Yeah. When educational standpoint, the kids in our school, you think about, I guess every school has different rules for this. I've heard about schools that, students can bring them, but they slide them into an envelope and they're stored there until the end of the day. Then they pick them up. In our school, just to kind of reference this, the rule is they're allowed to have them on them all day, but it's up to a teacher's discretion whether they're allowed to use them or not.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing. Now, lunchtime, they're free. They're free and clear. Before the school day starts, they're allowed to. So that's where we have sort of, unique roles, I think, per building. That's kind of a curious question. I guess you could send a comment. What does your school allow? If you're a teacher, what is the school policy on cell phone use in your school?
Because now we've run into that one distinct thing where, like I said, the cell phones are better than the laptops, but I still struggle with this concept of, are the cell phones even a benefit in the classroom? Now, you and I teach a TV production classroom, so from our perspective, it's like, well, yeah, they're a benefit because we can get kids to shoot in 4K, to take a picture, to upload them to Teams, and all of these little technical things that you can do just because you have a cell phone, where it's a little trickier to do that on your laptop. But I still keep thinking, is it a benefit to have kids have their cell phones in school?
Well, I mean, that's the ultimate question, right? Like, that I think districts are challenged with right now. It's a hot topic. I know in my daughter's school, they're talking about this a lot. I know in our school district, it's been a discussion. They sent out a survey to parents on their thoughts on the subject. So this is something that, it's a hot topic because it's very controversial. For me, I was a special education teacher for a long time. I've seen benefits and drawbacks of cell phone use in those classrooms. And, I'll just start with the first one. The major benefit, it is access to the internet and research at your fingertips instantly, because cell phones are really, really fast.
Very fast. But even with that access, because you and I are amazed, it doesn't stop them from just simply asking a question without thinking. Like, they haven't dawned onto you like, oh my gosh, I have my cell phone. But then if I pull it out to look for the answer, what's also interesting is they also have a school laptop and they don't do the same thing either. Like, the laptop's right there. You can simply go to Google, type in your question, how to add a transition or what is the capital. But they don't do that. They just sometimes will go right to the teacher. And that's that's been going on in teaching since teaching began.
It's nice when a student has access. It's like having a library at your fingertips. But I agree with you 100%. If a student has to be motivated to try to go find that answer. And it goes back to the previous podcast that we filmed together, that we had together, where we were looking at thinking about that great student, that curious student, the student that's willing to go search for an answer. And we love that quality in our students. The same is true on a cell phone, and I'll bring up a huge drawback of it. It can be a time waster. If a student doesn't have the research skills, has been taught to search in the right way, and doesn't have the natural curiosity to seek out and try to search, then they're going to miss out on that opportunity that we love in students, which is go find the answer.
Yeah, I think the best benefit is if there's a correlation between how you use the phone and how you connect it with your class. You and I have a natural connection, right? Hey, we got to take a picture. We got to shoot a video. How do you hold your phone? And I wonder how other classes would do that. How does an English class naturally implement the use of a phone? And now we're going more beyond phone, like an application, to get it so you've got a use for it in the class. Because I think one of the biggest drawbacks is that you and I have a use for it in our class, but the moment you stop working, due to the rules, is you get that hand in the air. Hey, Mr. Weir, there's like 5 minutes left. Can I take my phone out now? And I'm like, and it's a yes and no. It's like, yes, I don't mind you taking it out because it'll get you to be quiet. And it's kind of like a pacifier. But also, I also want you to, well, you could just talk to your friend. Like, that's kind of fun too. You could see what they're up to over the weekend.
There's that would be my number one drawback is it serves as a waste of time sometimes. And for a student, for my daughter, I'll just go somebody that I, very, very much care about. I don't love the fact that she wastes time on her cell phone. Right. My wife and I talk about it a lot. We it's something that we try to limit her on. And, we have rules in our house that are established for, you're not going to sit there all night long on a cell phone. I don't want my students doing that in school either. That last 5 minutes of class, if it is free time, which is rare around here because time is so precious, please spend it socializing and learning how to talk to people.
Yeah, I find it funny that, yes, did I love the Walkman when it came out, in the 80s, the yellow Sony with the, like the orange puffy headphones. It was great. But I realized right away that if I put it on and blocked out the world, well, then I never talked to my friends. So it was only good for certain situations. And I think that experience frames my opinion now. Well, the cell phone's only good for certain situations. I don't know how good it is in every class. Yeah, it lends itself well to our class. And what you just said, you've got to use it like a lot of tools, you've got to put guidelines on it, guardrails. You can only, have it this many times during the day. Get off your phone before you go to bed, right? Give yourself time to get off the phone. But I still think there are benefits in it, but man, do I struggle with it every day.
I would, this is a parenting advice more than a teacher advice, but I look at it, you have to almost examine the student. And this is where it gets really tricky. If you have a classroom full of 25 students, each one of them is different. But if you have a student that's naturally, introverted, and they want to put on their Walkman headphones and disappear into their music and not talk to anybody, then we want those students to put the cell phone down to speak to people.
Right.
If you are naturally the kind of person that is very social and you want involved with this social world around you at all times, we want you to put the cell phone down sometimes, because you need to stop texting your friends every second, every thought you have, and telling them where you're at and what you're doing. Like, calm down. You can just be yourself without that drama that you're surrounding yourself with. So a lot of it is like examining, as a parent, it's examining your child and saying, well, which kind of kid do I have? And limiting them based on that to try to push them toward the other side. Socialize if you need socialization, or less socialization. Let's cut you off a little bit from the world. Less cell phone use for that reason.
And this was an interesting observation I had while doing cafeteria duty. And you've got it as well, but it's a different, we're not in the same lunch together. That when the school year started out, a table forms. And I noticed with a lot of the guide tables, what they would do is they would, pull their phones out, prop them up. I get one earbud, you get the other. We would watch, whatever. But then as the first semester ended and second semester began, what I noticed was that wasn't happening as much anymore. A lot of the cell phones were now put away at lunch, and they were engaging, but it just took time. And I don't know why. Maybe they just got familiar with themselves. Maybe that group of 2 or 3 of those tables that I think of, they solidified, these are my friends, this is my crew, and they had more fun talking to each other. But in my head, as I would walk around and do the beat, I'm like, I like that table. I like that they're talking. I like that they're off their phones. Now they're not off 100%, but you could see like the needle going, I'm more towards socializing than I am towards being on my phone.
And just a slight switch to the topic. So a lot of this is our talk about socialization and trying to help middle schoolers have a nice balance in their life. But there's the other side of cell phone use, when you think about the app usage, and when we think about like using your cell phone to accomplish something, again, there's a balance. And this isn't really something that I thought about a lot, but just stealing this idea from something that I know our district has examined: screen time with your eyes. Like, even if you're using your cell phone with the best of intentions, and you're using an app that is helping you to learn or helping you to create, but there is this real factor of you need to put your cell phone down because of screen time. And, that's something that's been a topic at our school. And, I think about that at lunchtime. Here these students are, as you just described, sitting around, and they're still staring at this screen, even on their break, what is supposed to be a break for them from screen time. And now they're staring at that screen a little bit longer.
All right, pull out your phone.
Yes.
Let's see what our screen time is. I'm curious.
I don't even know how to do that.
All right, I'm going to go to settings.
Settings.
I want to set.
I'm frightened to hear what mine is.
Well, I got a good idea.
Okay, here it is. Screen time.
Screen time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so far today, my daily average is 2 hours and 33 minutes.
Okay.
But I will say this. I have set app limits for Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. But what's nice.
Smart.
And I've got a limit for 15 minutes, but then I have to hit a button to get like another 15. It's very Pavlovian. Like I got to keep hitting the thing. But yeah, right now I am around 2 hours, 33 minutes. And I think most days mine will say 3 hours.
Okay.
Which is crazy.
So this is interesting. I use my cell phone a lot for work. I use my cell phone a lot for playing the guitar and learning about how to play the guitar. So mine could be frightening, but I'm at 1 hour and 53 minutes is my daily average right now. So that's pretty good.
That's really good.
But I don't even want to admit this, but I'm going to admit it to you.
Yeah.
That I'm down 41% from last week. So maybe this is an anomaly.
You're my new hero because I am down 27% from last week.
Okay. So it's just, I hate to say it, but this is probably an anomaly, and I'm actually worse than 1 hour and 53 minutes, evidently.
Yeah.
I think my typical usage is probably higher than that.
That is so funny. So then if I look at for some reason it says I'm on Netflix 1 hour and 15.
Okay.
I read the New York Times for about 35 minutes, and then Spotify, and then you hit and then TikTok, right, for 16, mail, and then I go on Facebook for 10.
Wow.
That's funny.
I have weird ones right now. Oh, wait, I'm looking at the day. I have to switch it to the week. Yeah. So, Facebook's a lot. YouTube's a lot. I use an app called Ultimate Guitar. And again, this is where we talk about, creativity. Ultimate Guitar is an app that allows me to learn how to play the guitar. It allows me, when I'm actually playing live, I learn from it. I use it to play live music. So, again, it's me being creative and a hands-on experience in playing music. I don't think there's a lot of people that say, well, you're playing too much music.
Right.
That's not usually the case, but 31 minutes on average a day, I'm sitting there staring at my phone, just looking at that app about music.
Yeah.
So, and again, that's where this is a really good debate because it's a challenge to decide, I think, as a parent, as a teacher, as a school district, what should our phone policy be?
And I thought about that because I love playing that. Well, if I ran the world, because I think everybody thinks if I ran the world, if people just did the way I want them to do it, well, the world would be a perfect place. Except there's too many of us. We're all different. We all have differences. But I was like, okay, if I had to come up with the policy, I do like that in the elementary, they don't let them, if I understand, they don't let them wear the watches.
Okay.
Right? Like I would definitely.
I got one of them on right now.
Yeah. I've tried to watch. I didn't like wearing the watch. It was a constant distraction. And I don't want distractions. I like the middle ground they've chosen here. Like I have no problems with my students having their cell phones on them. If they got their cell phones on them, but they're not out, that's perfect. And I like that you've got a free period before homeroom. So if I had a cell phone policy, it would be like you can have it on your person, and by your person, I would say in your book bag, not in your pocket, because then you're going to feel the vibrations. And this way, if you have a class like ours, you can get it without wasting time going to your locker. But otherwise, it should be out of sight, out of mind. You can use your laptop to go on it to find whatever information you need.
I guess one area of disagreement, because I'm really on the same page as you with many things. I like fundamentally hate cell phones at lunch. I wish I would like to get rid of it. I don't mind before the school day starts. I don't mind teacher's discretion, even free time sometimes from a teacher if you get to that point, or listening to music. I've had a lot of teachers, hey, it's okay to listen to music while we're working on our math worksheet or this lesson. We're doing independent work. Turn on your music and do it. Like, I love the use of cell phones for those things. I hate it at lunch. I think we have an awful lot of students that need a break. My reasons would be, number one, a break from screen time. The second reason would be it would encourage socialization for a number of students that have almost become, at the middle school level, have become very introverted, and they need any help they can get to try to talk to the students around them. And then last but not least, because of the freedom, and I've heard this from the people in charge of discipline at our school. I'll just bring up this topic, but there have been a number of disciplinary issues, misuse of cell phone that is happening in our own school at lunchtime. It's a text message that's mean. Right. It's a picture taken that they shouldn't have taken. That's really inappropriate. Yep. Why are you taking a picture of somebody eating? This is bizarre behavior that you shouldn't do. People look strange when they're eating. Don't take their picture. And then send it somewhere. It's the misuse of social media sometimes. Maybe it's watching or looking up something at lunchtime that they shouldn't be watching or looking up. And it's an awful lot of students in a cafeteria to try to take care of. So those are my 3 main reasons why I don't like it at lunch.
I like it.
I want to get rid of it at lunch.
That's good. That's good. I think, once again, it's a conversation for another day. It's almost like you've got to teach them, especially in middle school, if that's when they stick the cell phone in their hand. To me, it's media education, right? Understanding the images that you're seeing. You've got to not only teach them how an image is made, constructed, and broken down, but what they're trying to sell you. One of my thoughts, and this goes way back to the beginning of our conversation, was when we had Channel 1, when there were no cell phones, that was the only advertisement you saw during the day.
Right, yeah.
Now you open up your phone, you are being advertised to all day long on whatever website you're going, and that's not anything that we really bumped into. But that's once again a whole nother conversation about how it's just changed, how they get bombarded with these images. So I do like your idea, although I would give them a little more freedom to just simply not in the cafeteria. Like, you don't need it now. Talk to people.
Yeah, and I think I might be stealing a little bit of one of your ideas, but I've heard you say this to me before, and I've thought about it a few times. And I'll just go back in time. I was in the 1980s when I was in elementary school. But, a teacher told you something in class, and maybe you did have 5 minutes at the end of class, but there was time to sit and reflect and think about what you're learning that day, or think about, but because we didn't have the cell phone to go to I call it time wasting, but, to basically distract us, I had time to reflect on the soccer game I was going to play that night, the baseball game that I was preparing for in my mind, maybe the math lesson that I just learned. But it's that time to think, it's that time to socialize that some of our students are missing. They are going to that, and I'll use your word, pacifier. Yep. They're going to that pacifier immediately as soon as they're given free time at all.
Yeah. And I wonder if you did have a media education class, if somehow that could be brought into it. By keeping yourself on your phone, you're denying yourself the opportunity to reflect on, frankly, what's the most important thing in a middle schooler's life? You. Reflect on, your motivation, your grades, your socializing, your friends, how you treat others, responsibility, your parents. I mean, the list is endless because it takes a long time to get to an adult. But if you simply put that phone back in your hand, it really does rob you of that time to think. And that, to me, is the biggest drawback, which is probably why I like the tables in the classroom who have put it down, who have somehow now just begun to socialize, talk to themselves. Like you said, they've gotten off all of that screen time.
A 13-year-old daughter at home, and I'll just bring up this, this one little side note. But, the being advertised to all day, like you mentioned, but it's also being influenced all day. It's being influenced by outside sources. She's already influenced by what everybody's wearing. Right. I think we've talked about in the past. They want to dress alike. They want to fit in. But now we're also fitting in with the entire world from our cell phone. That's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. Well, that, of course, brings up social media, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yes.
Right? Well, hey, look, there is the sound of the bell. It is always great to sit down and talk with you. So much fun to set all the gear up and everything. It is time to shut down the smartboard, turn off the lights, and leave the greatest playground in the world, your classroom. So glad you have decided to become a teacher. The world needs good teachers. Thanks for listening, and we will see you in the hallway.